Manish has started. Yes, recording in progress. You can start right now.
Okay. So,
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see so many people joining our talk today. And as you all know, our guest speaker is Mr. Santi Borgani. So first of all, I want to uh, express our heartful thank to Shanti for accepting our invitation and is being with us today. Shanti is going to talk on the theme meeting what is. Shanti has spoken to this group even earlier, so I'll briefly introduce Shanti. Mr. Santi Bogni's connection with Krishnamurti's teaching started over 35 years ago with a book. Since then, Santi had felt deeply appealed to read, explore, share, and as far as possible, live those words. In 2001, Santi started Casa della Pace, a house in nature in central Italy, as a Krishnamurti inspired retreat center. Since that beginning, Santi has hosted 5 or 6 retreats every year
Yes,
based on
yes,
study, dialogue, and silence. Retreats continue even today with closer friends as well as with newcomers. Aside this activity, many other things happen, including the birth of 3 children that are now young adults, getting involved in supporting Achyut Patwardhan School, Rajghat, Varanasi, and working in the retreat center, receiving people from different corners of the world. I just want to add that Shanti is a friend of Rajghat Education Center and has been of great help to Achyut Patwardhan School in raising donations from last more than a decade. With these words, I welcome Santi once again and request Santi to please begin your talk. Santi, as you know, you can take about 45 to 50 minutes, after which there'll be question answer sessions or observations as people want it to be. So please go ahead.
thank you, Dubey, and thank you, everybody. I'm glad to meet you again. And I would like, first of all, to read a text, to read together with you, a text from Krishnamurti. I hope that this text can be shared on the Zoom screen, but anyway, I will read it. It's not a long text. It will take about 10 minutes to read it. And this is one of the chapters of the book, The Urgency of Change. And the title of this chapter Is There a God? So I start reading now. This is a dialogue with a questioner, between Krishnamurti and the questioner. Questioner, I really would like to know if there is a God. If there isn't, life has no meaning. Not knowing God, man has invented him in 1,000 beliefs and images. The division and the fear bred by all these beliefs have divided him from his fellow man. To escape the pain, and the mischief of the division, he creates yet more beliefs, and the mounting misery and confusion have engulfed him. Not knowing, we believe. Can I know God? I've asked this question of many saints, both in India and here, and they have all emphasized belief. Believe, and then you will know. Without belief, you can never know. What do you think? Krishnamurti, is belief necessary to find out? To learn is far more important than to know. Learning about belief is the end of belief. When the mind is free of belief, then it can look. It is belief or disbelief that binds. For disbelief and belief are the same. They are the opposite sides of the same coin. So we can completely put aside positive or negative belief. The believer and the non-believer are the same. When this actually takes place, then the question, is there a God, has quite a different meaning. The word God, with all its tradition, its memory, its intellectual and sentimental connotations, all this is not God. The word is not the real. So, can the mind be free of the word? Questioner, I don't know what that means. Krishnamurti, the word is the tradition, the hope, the desire to find the absolute, the striving after the ultimate, the movement which gives vitality to existence. So the word itself becomes the ultimate. Yet we can see that the word is not the thing. The mind is the word, and the word is thought. Questioner, and you are asking me to strip myself of the word? How can I do that? The word is my past, it is memory. The wife is the word, and the house is the word. In the beginning was the word. So the word is the means of communication, identification. Your name is not you, and yet, without your name, I can't ask about you. And you are asking me if the mind can be free of the word. That is, can the mind be free of its own activity? Krishnamurti. In the case of the tree, the object is before our eyes, and the word refers to the tree by universal agreement. Now, with the word God, there is nothing to which it refers. So each man can create his own image of that for which there is no reference. The theologian does it in one way, the intellectual in another, and the believer and the non-believer in their own different ways. Hope generates this belief, and then seeking. This hope is the outcome of despair, the despair of all we see around us in the world. From despair, hope is born. They also are two sides of the same coin. When there is no hope, there is hell. And this fear of hell gives us the vitality of hope. Then illusion begins. So the world has led us to illusion and not to God at all. God is the illusion which we worship, and the non-believer creates the illusion of another God which he worships, the state or some utopia or some book which he thinks contains all truth. So we are asking you whether you can be free of the world with its illusion. Questioner, I must meditate on this. Krishnamurti, if there is no illusion, what is left? Questioner, only what is. Krishnamurti, the what is the most holy. Questioner, if the what is the most holy, then war is most holy, and hatred, disorder, pain, avarice, and plunder. Then we must not speak of any change at all. If what is sacred, then every murderer and plunderer and exploiter can say, don't touch me, what I am doing is sacred. Krishnamurti, the very simplicity of that statement, what is the most sacred, leads to great misunderstanding, because we don't see the truth of it. If you see that what is sacred, you do not murder, you do not make war, you do not hope, you do not exploit. Having done these things, you cannot claim immunity from a truth which you have violated. The wise man who says to the black rioter, what is sacred, do not interfere, do not burn, has not sinned. For if he had, the negro would be sacred to him, and there would be no need to burn. So, if each one of us sees this truth, there must be change. This seeing of the truth is change. Questioner, I came here to find out if there is a God, and you have completely confused me. Krishnamurti, you came to ask if there is God. We said the world leads to illusion, which we worship. And for this illusion, we destroy each other willingly. When there is no illusion, the what is most sacred. Now, let's look at what actually is. At a given moment, the what is may be fear, or utter despair, or a fleeting joy. These things are constantly changing. And also, there is the observer who says, these things all change around me, but I remain permanent. Is that a fact? Is that what really is? Is he not also changing, adding to and taking away from himself, modifying, adjusting himself, becoming or not becoming? So both the observer and the observed are constantly changing. What is change. This is a fact. What is? No, that is what is. Questioner. Then is love changeable? Is everything, if everything is a movement of change, isn't love also part of that movement? And if love is changeable, then I can love one woman today and sleep with another tomorrow. Krishnamurti, is that love? Or are you saying that love is different from its expression? Or are you giving to expression greater importance than to love, and therefore making a contradiction and a conflict? Can love ever be caught in the wheel of change? If so, then it can also be hate. Then love is hate. It is only when there is no illusion that what is most sacred. When there is no illusion, what is God, or any other name that can be used. So God, or whatever name you give it, is when you are not. When you are, it is not. When you are not, love is. When you are, love is not. That's the text. So how do we approach this statement of Krishnamurti that is quite strong, powerful? What is the most sacred? The questioner is objecting, I think rightly, what is war? What is what we see around us? How can you say it is sacred? We cannot just take this statement as true because Krishnamurti has been saying it. We should explore, go into it and find out if that is true or not. And if it's true for each one of us, not just a truth that is put there and then forgotten. But if this might become a truth in our life, if what is might become really sacred, really the most important thing in our life. So, one thing that we observe, asking ourselves, how do we approach what is? One thing that is quite easy to be seen is that each one of us approach what is from his own perspective. Each one of us has a different point of view, different ideas, different memories, a different background. And this point of view, these opinions, tends to become the real, the fact for each one. So when we are in conflict with each other, each one of the two has a different perspective, and for each one, that perspective is true, is a fact, is real. And this is the same in societies where there are different parties, where there are different groups, and for each group, their opinion, their views are real, are the real fact. In this way, when we approach what is from this point of view, what is fragmented, is made up of many different opinions, many different ideas, many different points of view. And there is and when things are seen like this, everything becomes relative. My opinion might be true as well as your opinion. We cannot know what truth is. There is no way to truth. Therefore, everything is just relative. And the one that is speaking better, the one that is more convincing, or the one that has more knowledge, establish in a way or the other what is real, what is true. While for the others, what is left is to follow. So we see this movement of followers and the ones that decide, let's say decide in quotes, what truth or what reality is in religions, in politics, and even in families and between friends. There is one leader that more or less has better opinions or better ideas or better knowledge, and that person creates a following from the others. This seems also to be quite clear. So is it possible to come to go beyond this relative way of seeing life, to see something that is not changing, that is not just my opinion, but to actually see and seeing the truth? Because if this is not possible, if my opinion is as good as your opinion, and so on and so on and so on, then we are bound to live in a condition that is just relative, where nothing is really sacred, nothing is really true. It's just relatively true or relatively false. So how do we approach that? When we observe what is, we see that there are facts, concrete facts, events, and there is our perception of the events, our inner feelings, reactions, emotions, memories arising from a fact. So the two, the fact and the inner perception, are not separate. We cannot separate actually what actually happens from our own perception and feelings of what happens. And the other thing we can easily see is that our feelings are related to our background, to our family story, to our life story, to our culture. And the same is for the actuality. All events are related to the context, to the environment, and to all the past events. So we are talking through a computer because of all the past knowledge about this technology and so on. And nowadays we have Zoom and we can have a good chat on Zoom. Just 20 years back, it would not have been possible. So the past is implied both in the actual event and in the psychological event, the perception we have of reality, of what happens. And in the same way, we are connected. Everything that happens is connected with the surrounding, with the environment, with society, with culture, with politics, and so on. There is a coronavirus spreading around the world during the past 2 years, and now we cannot meet in person with each other. And I would like to come to India, but I cannot fly in there, and so on. So, what is actually related to all the past, both inwardly and actually, and to all the surrounding. We can see that each point, each one of us is related to everything, to the totality of the time and of the space. This is quite rational, and I think it cannot be denied. So what is a relation? Is a relation between one part to everything. And this relation is constantly in movement. Even just one thought of one of us is changing the whole. And this is actually true. We can see in our families, when we think something, how this affects the others. This is a fact, I think. And when we look at this in this way, that is so wide, so vast, we realize that we cannot grasp it. There is no possibility to grasp the totality of this. There are too many things. I don't know all my past. My past are not my memories, actually. My memories are the story I'm telling you, I'm telling myself of my past. But my actual past is not my memories. My actual past are even the events that I forgot completely, is everything that happened, is my parents, what they did, what they hoped for me, and so on, and so on, and so on. So it's not actually possible to have an intellectual vision of all this vast what is, because everything is here, and in the same time, this here is the totality. So there is no possibility for grasping all this. And furthermore, as Kay is pointing out often, the word is not the thing. Even here is saying the definition is not the thing, it's not the actual. So this must be really very clear. So we are facing something that is what is our actual life, this moment, this being together, this speaking together. And the world is not a thing, and we cannot grasp everything. We do not actually possibly know what is this very moment. We are listening, we are talking, we are sharing something. This is the description. But the actuality for each one of us is far beyond all possibilities to describe it, to name it, or to define it. This is the difficulty we are facing. And this is the beginning of a possibility to watching all this from a different perspective. The first thing is that the very fact is that we are facing something that is unknown, that is not possible to define. And the moment we define it, we can and we must define things, of course. We must also define our feelings when we're talking with a friend or when we go to a psychologist. We need to use words in order to be able to communicate with the other. I felt so hurt by you, or I feel I love you, and so on. So we need to name feelings and we need to name facts. But the moment that the naming of facts becomes more important than seeing the fact, then there is a distortion. We are using the definition as a reality, forgetting or not seeing that the reality is beyond the possibility to be known. That means in relationship, when I meet you, I can say, your name is this and that, your life, your nationality, your work, and so on. But if this becomes the actuality for me of what you are, then I am not meeting you. The moment I am saying, I know who you are, I have lost you. I actually have no possibility to meet you, to be in relation with you. I can be in relation with you only when the fact that I cannot possibly know you is a fact to me, is real. Then a possibility of relationship exists. The moment I know you, there is no possibility whatsoever of being really in relationship with each other. Everything becomes dead, static. We just repeat. And this is what happens in families and in our relationship, in politics, in religion, and so on. The definition is more important than the actuality. And the actuality, or truth, I would say, not the actuality, but the truth, is that what is unknown, is not definable in no way. And this must be very clear. Then the next step is all this vast relation, this vast connection of people, events, past and present, feelings, and so on, is a chaotic gathering of things that are put together without any order, without any intelligence, without any law that is ruling. Is there a law in what is? Is there something that is not created by human beings, but that actually exists as a law, and we cannot possibly break that law? So let's look at this, because I have the feeling that what is unknown, but we can understand and see if there are laws in this. We were saying that everything is in relation with everything, and this is a fact. It cannot be otherwise. Everything that happens in one part of the world affects the rest of the world. Krishnamurti has been stating very, very often that where there is division, there is conflict. And he added very often, this is a law. Where there is division, there is conflict. This is a law, not a law created by him, not a law created by anyone. It's a law of life, a law of what is. So we see that where we don't see and we don't take into account the fact that each one of us is related with everything, then there is a division. And the division creates conflict. So where a human being has not seen the unity between our lives and nature, this has created a division, and man has destroyed nature, as man has done during the past thousands of years. Has not started now, the destruction of nature. It's really a very long story. This is evident, as Krishnamurti has been pointing out, between religion, between nationality, between various groups, and so on. There is no need of explaining it further. Where there is division, there must be conflict. So this is one of the laws of what is. We cannot escape from that. Is there any other law? I think this is, in my point of view, this is the fundamental law, and everything else comes from this. Division is the evil, is the bad. Even the word devil comes from the concept of division. In a way or the other, division has been seen since ever, I think, as the bad, the evil. Is this a fact for us? Or we can divide from others. We can say, I'm right, you are wrong, I'm better than you, and so on. I will keep my bank account and I don't care for you, and all this. How do we approach this? Honestly. Do we see that this is an unbreakable law and this is what is, in fact? Or is it just a concept? I think it's a very hard statement. Out of this comes the fact that we think we can postpone things. We can avoid things. We have feelings, but we can hide those feelings. We have a conflict with someone, but we can put it just aside and don't care for it. But this is also a division. Division between something that actually exists. I have feelings in connection with you, with something that happened between the two of us. And I don't care for those feelings. I just go on and I think, well, just my feelings, no one is seeing that. They are not visible. There is not all this not visible world. So no one is seeing my feelings. But the fact is that where there is division, I put these feelings aside, I divide my feelings from everything that happened as if my feelings would not be important. I go on. But those feelings are there. So there is another thing that comes evident out of this, that whatever has not been completely finished, whatever has not arrived to an end, it will remain there forever. Cannot finish just because we ignore that. So everything that is, that exists, must be taken into consideration. Because everything that exists, exists. What is, is. There is no opposite to what is. There is only what is. There is no what should be. There is only what is. And what is everything that happens within and without. We have no choice. So when we see things from this perspective and we consider all these things with care, inquiring into that, not only through words, but we inquire into our lives to see what are the consequences of something I think in this brain. What are the consequences when I start to think something and then it goes on and on and on and on? When I feel something, what are the consequences around me, the person in my families, in my friends, the people I meet? When we inquire into all this, not intellectually, but actually, it comes a tremendous responsibility because we see that everything, the smallest thing, the nuances of the feelings, the nuances of my behavior are the root of the life of myself, the people around me, are the root of the life of this humanity. I see that there is a tremendous responsibility in everything felt, seen, in every action. So the perspective on what is has changed now. It's not my opinion is relevant, but is this not knowing is relevant. And not knowing implies attention, implies deep, unbreakable respect for the other, for nature, for the human being, for the child, for the person I don't know. There is this sense of a responsibility that is coming out now because I see actually the truth of the statement that what is, there is no opposite to what is. And there must be care about what is. So we can go perhaps a little bit further, asking ourselves what it means, this word sacred, holy, why it has been used here. I don't know if there is a possibility for words to go beyond this point. we see that what is not just matter, is not just feeling, is not just the totality of time, the totality of the existence. What is load. There is something that is order, and it is unbreakable. In the smallest or in the biggest, this order is there. If all this is seen in action, if opinions trying to avoid things are put aside, all this is put aside, and if there is this sense of responsibility as an actuality for what is, for my friend, for our relation, for this planet, for this humanity, if there is this sense of responsibility, then we can ask ourselves, what is this order that exists? Is it separated from the responsibility of each one of us? Can it be separated, that order and this responsibility, this life, this human being, and that order that is unbreakable, that is there? Of course not, it cannot. Responsibility is to recognize, to see this order, and to live with that, to make of our lives, to say so, the temple, the place where this order is going through, is flowering, is existing, is manifesting itself. So there is no separation between, there is no separation when we actually come to this point. There is no separation, and only in the moment where we have been coming to that point, there is no separation from what this life is and that order. That order is this life, and this life is that order. And I think because that order is not man-made, is not produced by thinking, but is the expression of totality and is the deepest quality of that totality. And that is what is. What is not something apart from that order, but what is the expression in this moment of that order. Then we can, I think, use the word sacred in relation to that, and seeing that what is sacred. There must be a sense of respect, a sense of the highest attention when we see this. And out of that attention, out of that awareness of the unknown, a change must happen. You know, when this is seen, it's not that a change can happen. A change must happen. is different. It cannot be. The two, as much as we see that this I, this thinker, this one that has opinion, that has point of view and holds to them, is attached to them, as much this I is understood and therefore is reduced to what is actually, that means nothing, as much this I is nothing, as much that sacred, that order must comes into being. And I think I have finished, and I am looking forward to listen to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanti. Thanks a lot. I think you have covered very important and profound issues that Krishnaji talks about in his talks and books. I have two hands raised. I'll start with Harshad Bhai and then Mr. Dinesh Waghmare. Yes, Harshadji, please unmute yourself.
Yes.
Unmute, yeah.
Are you able to listen my voice?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Santi. I like to say some anecdotes or metaphors. One young man, he came to a sage, a holy man, and the young man asked, "Can you show me God?" And the sage asked, "Do you love anyone?" And the young man said, "No, I am interested in God." So the sage said, if you love somebody, then there is a possibility of transforming that love for somebody into a love for everything. And then there is a possibility of feeling what God is, because God is love. And there is a poem also, it says that in the street of love is very narrow, and in that on that street, two people cannot stand together, the observer and the observed. Only when they become one, when the observer and the observed, and there is no sense of I or me, then love is possible. To really feel what it means. And one metaphor which comes from my own mind is that you are sitting in an empty room and your eyes are fully open. Your mind is very, very alert, watching everything. And there is a door, and somebody enters through the door, you know that somebody has come. So that state of acute alertness without the sense of I, maybe that is what I consider what is sacred or something holy or God, is that state in which the mind is very alert and silent and watching every thought and feeling which comes. So that is the basic what is, and on that sometimes when we are not alert, some other what is like fear, anger, jealousy, that blocks that sacredness or what is which exists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harshad Bhai. Shanti, there is a comment and a question from Shakti ji from Rajghat. Before I go to Mr. Dinesh Waghmare, I would like to read it to you and you can respond. Shakti ji says, life seems to be a better word than God, and K has used life elsewhere as his preference as well. God is the most loaded word in the human history. Does K simply
Imply,
imply here that whatever is not illusion is sacred?
well, if I should reply to this question, I would say that Shakti ji is right. Whatever is not illusion must be sacred. But the question is that illusion, the word illusion, implies something that we think it exists, but it doesn't exist really. So illusion is something that does not exist, has no existence. This is the meaning of the word. So the implication of this is that illusion does not exist. Only what is actually exists. And if it's true that whatever is not illusion is sacred, then this implies that whatever exists is sacred, because illusion does not exist. And for what concerns the word God, that is true, is so much loaded, as well as the word truth, as well as the word love. All those words are loaded heavily since centuries, has been distorted, polluted. But we cannot not use those words. If we skip those words and we try to use other words, we are just making things more messy, more complicated, and so on. I think it is necessary to use those words and use those words with clarity, with responsibility.
Thank you, Santi. Thanks a lot. We'll have Dinesh ji. Yes. Please go ahead.
Sir, are you able to listen to me, sir?
Yes.
Yes.
Sir, you said that what is sacred, but does the words and opposite polarities and difference between the individuals, they are also not the part of what is? And you also said that illusion, but how we will differentiate between illusion and this thing? That is not a part of what is. And
Illusion.
what is you said yes, and what is you said that is as a order of itself, and it is that because it is sacred, it has got its own order also. So do all of us who are individuals and who are having their own perspective, is there not possibility of collective order which we are trying to explore since centuries? Are you getting my point, sir?
Yeah. No, I think I understand your point. Is illusion then sacred? If everything is sacred, this is your point. So opinions and so on are all sacred. Yeah, did I understood right?
Yeah. They are also part of what is, isn't it?
Yeah, they are also part of what is. So there are one way of replying to that is what I was saying before. Illusion does not exist. So what is that exists really in illusion? When I have an opinion, what is the reality of that opinion? Is the opinion in itself? What is the source of the opinion? When I am saying something, when each one of us is saying something, what is the source of the words? What is real? I mean, the words in themselves are the fact, are what is, or the source of those words is what is actually. I don't know, I can quote Krishnamurti and repeat what Krishnamurti has been saying. But the source in Krishnamurti and in myself is evidently different. I can repeat Krishnamurti, but I am not Krishnamurti. So what I'm saying, I use the same words, but the source is different. So the source is part of what is actually. And we can perceive that. We can see that when someone is speaking out of sincerity, out of honesty, whatever he says has a certain meaning. The other man is saying the same thing, but he is not sincere, he is not honest, and that word has a different meaning, and we perceive that. So, in the same way, opinions and illusions are not the real thing, as just a part of the thing, are just the expression. But the source, the reality of those words, those opinions, those illusions, are not in the illusions themselves, but are in the source. I don't know, I want just to tell you an anecdote from something that happened to me some years ago. I was driving, I was stopped on a road, and I was going ahead very slowly, thinking that there was no one. But in fact, there was a man with a bike that was passing, an old man with a bike, and I just touched him. Nothing happened, but he was scared. And he reacted very strongly, starting to insult me and saying, "Stupid man, you don't look where you're going around," and so on. He was right. And I just, out of the immediate reaction to that, was telling him, "You are right. I'm very sorry. I haven't seen you." As in the moment, he saw that I was not reacting to his insulting and so on. I was not trying to defend myself. He just dropped all the aggressiveness and he told me, "No, no, don't worry. Thank you and see you again." So he changed completely. So he was reacting. He was in a stream of reaction, in a stream of judgment against me, and he was in a way right. But that was not the source. The source was that he was afraid. He has been reacting out of fear. And as soon as that has been recognized, everything was dropped and finished. So when we take the illusion as real, we are in the illusion. But when we see the source of the illusion and we respond to the source of the illusion, we are not in the illusion ourselves.
You mean to say that only the source is sacred?
Yes. So the source is the understanding of the human being. And when we meet the human being, not the opinion of the human being, but the human being, then we meet the sacred.
Because other all things are relative and dicey.
Sorry, say again?
Other all things are relative and dicey.
All things are relative is our opinion. But the fact is that your life is not relative. Your life is not in the field of relative. Everything you feel, everything you think, everything you do matter for this planet, is fundamental for this planet. It's not relative. Is not in that field. This is why there must be the sense of total responsibility for each action, because every action is not in the field of relative. That if it happens or not is the same. It's not that. If I do something or if I don't do that, it makes a difference. It makes a difference that is radical, absolute.
Thank you. Thank you, Santi.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Do we have other questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Anandji, please go ahead.
So, I mean, there is a person who has had a perception of it, and he is explaining to us what it is. And I do not know. And then I come to my own opinions and judgments. I want to understand what it is. What is important is, uh, how do I look at it? I am the known and I'm trying to know the unknown. Can I look at that is a question. I may call it sacred, I may call it God, or whatever it is. When I'm trying to understand, within quotes, uh, it is extremely difficult for the unknown to come into the known. Isn't it so, sir?
Yeah. Yeah, how do you approach the unknown? How do you approach the unknown? That means are we trying to figure out what the unknown is? Are we trying to build up ideas, opinions upon the unknown out of the words of Krishnamurti or out of my own words and so on? Or out of any tradition? This is what humanity has been doing along millennia, building up images, ideas upon the unknown. But when we say what is the unknown? So in meeting with each other, we actually are meeting the unknown. So it's not an idea anymore, because it is what actually is. It is this very moment, this being here, sitting in front of this screen where there is the image of each one of you, or some of you at least. And we are communicating with each other. Is this reduced to ideas? Is this reduced to concepts and so on? This word unknown is becoming a concept, or is the actuality? That it means I really don't know you. And not knowing you, I'm open to listen, to meet you. This is the difference. As soon as the unknown is turned into a concept, then it is not the fact anymore. It is a concept, and therefore it is illusion and so on. But the moment I actually see that meeting you is meeting the unknown. So the unknown is not something far away in the heavens or I don't know where. Is you, is me, is each one of us, is our life.
But the question is there a motive, sir? When I say I want to know, can I see there's a motive?
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I think there are two ways of seeing this I want to know. I want to know where it comes from. It comes from tradition, because I have been told something, and therefore I want to know if that word God, it means something, or I've been in a church and I had some
Is it
feeling.
an insecurity, sir, which wants me to know what it is? It is out of insecurity, isn't it so?
Yeah, it's my insecurity, is the hope that there is a God that is solving my problems, and I want to know that God, I want to have that. So there is I have been appropriative. There is a movement of taking possession of that God, is my God, and the God who works for me, is my servant. I have a need and I want God to fulfill those needs. But this is a way of wanting to know, wanting to have, in fact. It's not wanting to know. But there is another way that is implied in life itself. That is, I really actually don't know what life is. I actually see that I don't know what I am. This I am is unknown. And this is actual. It's not just a way of saying. If we are honest with ourselves, we can say that we don't know who we are. This is a fact. Therefore, if we don't know who we are, what this life is, what our friend is, then we start exploring. That exploration is not into concepts, but is in what actually is, in trying as far as we can to understand what is. Then perhaps we meet Krishnamurti words and we find that what he says is true. So we try to see if those words apply to what is and so on. So this inquiry starts out of this not knowing and goes into the not knowing. So it's the unknown moving in the unknown, and it's not me wanting.
Thank you, Shanti. I think there are some comments from Shankar. Mr. Shankar, would you like to say yourself rather than my reading?
No, sir,
Yes.
there's nothing to say. Thank you.
Okay.
Mallappa,
Who else?
say something, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mukesh Anand, please. Mukesh ji, please go ahead. Mukesh Anand, he is not here.
Mallappa, sir, can I speak?
Yes, please.
Can we brought up our children without teaching a world right from the beginning?
Would you repeat
Sir,
that?
are you able to?
Please repeat what you said.
Yeah, please repeat, yes.
Can we brought up our children without teaching a world right from the beginning? As a dumb. If we do so, in them there is no me, no I, mine, or so that love and compassion may come early. Over.
Did you
He's
get it?
saying,
Yeah,
can we brought up our child without telling a single word since childhood? Because word is causing all the conflict. That is what he's trying to say.
Sorry, I can't follow. I can't understand really what is said.
The point is, I mean, the words is causing problems in our life. I mean, how do I explain? I mean, if I don't teach any words to my child, I mean, how does the child, grows up to be mature or something like that's a question I think he's saying, but that is not a fact. That's not the truth. I mean, I need to understand words are essential in functional in the physical world. How I psychologically, how I misinterpret that, I need to look at it. Words are essential in life. Without the words and without communication, we cannot be where we are today. And that's what it is.
I think
Absolutely.
it's a purely hypothetical question.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, without word we cannot
Yeah.
function. We cannot speak,
Absolutely.
we cannot travel, we cannot do anything. So our life is based on word and is based, and word is the essential to communication and to everything. This must be clear. And when we educate our children, we must use words. So I think again the question is, when we educate our children, are we just teaching words? Are just we teaching actions, skills, and so on? That when I mean just, I mean, are we giving to skills, to words, the main or only absolute importance? Or we see that the quality of what we are, the source from where those skills and those words come, is more relevant, I would say, than the action itself, or than the skill itself, or than the words themselves. When we, I don't know, if a doctor acquired the skill to operate as a surgeon, this is a skill for sure, and it is a concrete, very concrete action that is done. But what is the source of that? Not all doctors are compassionate. Not all doctors are really willing to help others. There are doctors that are far more willing to get rich than to help people. This is a fact. So what is the source of the skill? Can we, in education, point out that the source of the word is more important than the word itself? That the source of our action is more important than the action itself? I think if we are able, we can do that only if we are able to see for ourselves that what is our source, what is the source of our words, our actions, and so on. And then we can communicate on that level, from heart to heart, to say so, and not from brain to brain only. I think there is a concrete difference in this. I don't know, I have been seeing, well, you don't know my husband. I've been seeing this with my children when we had been living in nature, and I don't know, there is a sense of respect for nature that has been transmitted to them. And it was not through knowing or through just a simple description of what is a respect from nature, but from living it, from being that, living with that respect. So that source is going along with words, and in my understanding is far more important than words.
Thank you, Shanti. Do we have any other question? Yes, Harshad Bhai wants to say something.
Yeah. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. When we ask a question, and Krishna ji asked many questions, like question, is there a God? Is this question very important? If it is really important, then our mind will stop. It will not try to find any answer, but in that, just looking without trying to find answer, in that maybe something new happens. And it seems to me, at least from my own way, even there is no need to ask question. We can just look. It doesn't matter what we are looking at, but that state of looking, whether you are looking at a flower or a tree, what is that state of looking? Whether the mind is really attentive and silent. And in that, I feel that there is nothing to know, nothing to learn, only to see whatever is happening. And in such a state, a question may also arise, and even answer may come, but the whole thing is moving. So important thing is to be in the state of looking and not asking many questions. Okay, I have finished. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Shad, it's nice what you say.
Thank you.
I don't know, it's not really a question, but I think, sorry, someone wants to speak?
So yes, sir. I mean, I wanted to say, I mean, to remain with what is. I mean, when I don't do remain with what is, there's a lot of wastage of energy is there. Can I observe that is the question? I never remain with what is. It is always what it should be or what it should not be. Even when I go for my walks, when I'm watching the trees, when the sunset and sunrise, you know, I mean, again, it's a pleasurable moment. It's again a wastage of energy. Can I observe that is the question, sir? Every action of mine, I'm wasting energy. There is no energy which is to remain with what is. Over, sir.
Well, for what I see, when we, as Harshad was saying now, when we actually see something, when there is this action of seeing, then that action of seeing is a distraction. It is an ending something. So when we actually see not only the tree, but we see our reaction to the tree that is going along with looking at the tree. And I watch the tree and I see that I'm not attentive really. I am distracted. I have some thinking going through my head. And I see that this is a waste of energy, as you are saying. This is actually a waste of energy. I'm going around, but I feel intention. I feel that I'm not actually there simply. I'm not actually simply looking at the tree, the flower, and so on. So can I look at that really? And in that looking, there is an ending to that distraction. There is an ending to that waste of energy, because I am now looking at the whole of what is, not only trying to look at the tree, but I am looking also to the whole. I am looking to the perception. So that looking is not the perception. So it's not someone wanting to do something. It's just taking into account that something exists. If we can, how to say, develop silence in ourselves, silence that means actual silence, to have silent moments during our days, to not be busy all the time, to be silent, and to allow this watching, this looking outside as well as inside to happen, then there is an ending to that division, to that wanting to observe. There is just watching. So this must be experienced, must be done. It's not something that one can describe.
Yes, thank you, Santi. We'll have the last question, Mr. Arun Parth. Please unmute yourself. Mr. Arun Parth, yeah, please.
Yeah, hello everyone. So actually my question was, see, apart from the being with whatever is, which I could understand is like you're being with your own emotions. I mean, like you're able to see the certain facts of your life. But I have another question, which is like, in our daily life, we are able to see a lot of suffering, inequality, indifferences, exploitation, ill-treating of people and all that, which all are outside, which is again, we look at that also, I mean, that is also part of what is. So what happens to our own state by observing all these things? We feel a kind of helplessness and we are not able to do certain things because we don't have the power or the, thing. So I just wanted to know the outside state of looking at of all these things. How does it, how is it connected to our own inward state? So that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah. So, there is a suffering around us. How do we meet that suffering? When we are so much concerned with our sense, how do we meet the suffering of the other? If we are honest, we can read on a newspaper that there has been a flood in Pakistan, or there is an earthquake somewhere else, there is a war in Syria, and so on. But at the end, we are concerned only with ourselves. And this is the whole thing for us. So what it means that I am just concerned with myself. It means that everything that happens in my life never ends. I have a problem, and this problem is going on forever. I think about that, I think again about that, and again I take my problem with me. There is a thinking that never ends about my children, about my work, about my wife, about me in the end. So I am thinking all the time about myself. How do we meet the sorrow of the other? I think if this occupation with myself doesn't come to an end, we actually don't see the sorrow of the other. We don't see it actually. We can have information about that, but it's not the same thing. We don't feel. We have no compassion, in other words. We are not passionate about the suffering of the other. So is it that if there's an occupation for myself, this taking my problem on all the time, thinking about that all the time, being occupied only with my own problems and so on, if this comes to an end, and this is an art to put order in my life, to put order in this thinking, in this brain, to put order in my family and so on. So if this comes to an end, then we meet the suffering of the other. And the suffering of the other isn't our own suffering. It's painful to see a child that has no food. It's painful to see disorder in society and so on. It's painful to know that there are wars as it happens now in Syria, in Yemen, and in other parts of the world. Is a pain, is actually a pain. What that pain that is felt through compassion becomes in action is not out to be known. We don't know what it is. To turn that pain into action. For someone, it might be to start a charitable organization. For someone else, is to share this kind of talks we are having together. We don't know. But we know that to be touched by the sorrow of this world, of humanity, is possible only when what we perceive as our own sorrow, our own problem, is coming to an end.
Thank you, Santi. We come to the last question now. Durgaji wants to say something. Yes, Durgaji, please go ahead.
Hello. Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Shanti. Yeah, it's nice meeting you here again. Yeah, it's nice meeting you. I think I also participated in your last Zoom session. Yeah.
Yes, I
think you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it's quite a weighty subject, and I must say I was appreciative of the points you have covered and all that. So if I just have to say a few things about what is, as to what I understood from reading Krishnaji's books. So initially, the very moment I heard, there's so much focus is given on what is in my initial reading of Krishnaji's books. You really wonder, you're awestruck, what is this? What is, and to understand that also it takes a enormous amount of time and all that. And I remember, you remain with what is, and then what is transforms. That's the other statement that is coming to my mind. When you remain, like, he says something about anger, jealousy, greed, those what is. And if you are aware of it and if you remain with them, then that transforms. Those are the other fundamental statements, a few catchy statements we have read, and they kind of got ingrained in our memory. So that is the other thing I just would like to say. And as you rightly said, I think whatever the illusions have gone, then what remains is what is. Maybe after all our efforts or endeavors, or our intellectual pursuits, when all of them, they come to an end, and suddenly this thing dawns, on oneself, there are so many realms, where you as a human being, you with your limited intelligence, you won't be able to probe into. I think maybe that's the end of inquiry or whatever you can say that. So that's another point I just would like to contribute. And one more thing, Mr. Shanti, I was just reading another book recently. It's a discussion between two very seriously near-death experienced patients. One girl who has gone into near-death experience due to cancer, and she was exchanging some mail from with another person, and he was also every moment for him that was death for him. And he says, when you are in that kind of situations, maybe life itself teaches you so many things. He says, in conversations with this girl, he says, meaning is what everything is stripped away from you. All your words, your conversations, everything is when it's stripped away from you. Maybe that what is left is what is meaning. What is maybe the I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's saying about what is. Yeah, that's what I just would like to say. And one fine small thing, if I can, if I take the liberty to say, since you brought the topic of movies, I would like to say that you resemble quite a lot about Clint Eastwood, the Western actor.
Yeah. This I was told many times that I look like Clint Eastwood.
I'm happy to know that I'm not the one who is saying that. So at least I can bring some smile on your face, after such heavy discussion. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you. It's nice listening to this session.
Thank you. So we have come to the end of the talk now, and I want to thank Shanti for being with us. Thanks a lot. And next Sunday we'll have Mr. Siddharth Menon from Rajghat. He would be speaking on the urgency of change. So that is our program. It will be at 11 a.m. as usual. With these words, I want to thank Santi once again, and thank you everyone for being with us, and hopefully see you next Sunday. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Dubeyji. Thank you, Santi. And please,
Thank you.
Manishji, please.
Hope to see you again.
Thank you.